A portal trembles above you, Taurus, and destiny is whispering your name. Have you felt the air shift? Why do old memories wake you at dawn? Why does your soul feel like it's standing on the edge of a revelation? Because a coded activation, one foretold in the visions of Nostradamus, has begun unlocking inside you. A frequency sealed for 13 years and strengthened for 2 entire decades is rising again. And when the moment arrives, Taurus, one single call will change everything you thought you knew about your path. Taurus, before you move a single breath forward, answer this with your soul. Why have the last few nights felt different? Why does your chest tighten just before dawn, as if an ancient memory is trying to surface? Why do you feel you're standing at the threshold of something enormous, even if nothing physical has changed yet? Have you wondered why the silence around you suddenly feels alive? Have you noticed how your intuition has grown louder than your logic? Why now, Taurus? Why after years, 13 years of holding, enduring, absorbing, does your heart feel like it is preparing to be struck by a revelation? These are not ordinary sensations. They are the tremors of activation. Something deep beneath your ribs, something sealed long before you understood destiny, has begun to stir. It is not subtle. It is not random. It is not emotional noise. It is memory. Memory written in frequency rather than language. Memory locked inside the bones rather than the mind. Memory forged through 13 years of lessons, losses, cycles, and silent battles that no one ever saw, but heaven recorded with precision. Because, Taurus, you were not simply enduring life during these 13 years. You were being rewritten. Something in you was waiting for timing, waiting for alignment, waiting for a vibration powerful enough to awaken what was sleeping. And that vibration, after 2 decades of building, has finally reached your field. This is why your emotions feel sharper, why your patience has changed texture, why you no longer tolerate what once felt acceptable, why people from your past rise in your dreams as if a veil is thinning. You are not regressing, you are remembering, and this remembering is the sign that the activation has begun. Taurus, the universe has cycles so precise they could carve their way through stone. And you, sign of Earth, have been shaped across timelines. 13 years of lessons, 20 years of internal forging, and now a sudden opening triggered by the astrological winds closing 2025. Uranus shifting out of your sign is not just an astrological footnote. It is a release valve that has been tightly sealed for almost a decade. The pressure you've felt, the restlessness, the unexpected twists, the sudden endings, none of them were punishments. They were preparation. Jupiter expanding your internal horizon, Mars activating your dormant courage, Venus turning your emotional clarity into revelation. Every planet has been striking the same hidden chord inside you. This chord is the sound of awakening. You have felt held down, held back, stretched thin, but also strangely guided, as if an invisible hand prevented collapse even in your most fragile moments. That is because your soul was never in decline. It was in gestation. And now, Taurus, now the gestation is ending. Something ancient, rooted and sovereign within you has begun to open like a seal cracking after centuries. Some people around you may sense it, even if they cannot explain why. They may treat you differently, watch you more closely, or feel a strange mix of respect and fear when they look at you, because they feel it. Your frequency is rising. Let me ask you something. Why do you think certain memories have resurfaced in the last weeks? Why do names, situations, or feelings you thought were long buried suddenly glow with relevance again? Why do you feel the presence of someone who is not physically near? Because the activation you are stepping into does not open only the future, it reopens the past. 13 years ago, something broke in you that you never fully acknowledged. A disappointment, a loss, a betrayal, a calling that never found its moment, a version of yourself that died before it had a chance to live. You carried that wound with the elegance of earth, quietly, responsibly, without asking for pity. You rebuilt your life piece by piece, burying the ache under duty, under routine, under consistency. But the wound didn't vanish. It went underground. It became a code, and that code has been vibrating louder with every planetary shift of 2025. Your pain became architecture. Your silence became instruction. Your endurance became initiation. You thought you were surviving, but you were being sanctified. Taurus, look at your life honestly. Why do you feel more detached from old patterns? Why are you less willing to hold what drains you? Why are your instincts sharper than ever before? Why do you suddenly feel that something big is approaching, even if you can't name it? Because destiny is already in motion. The universe is preparing to send you something or someone that will change everything. Not in chaos, not in destruction, but in alignment. And it all begins with a single call. A call that carries the weight of 2 decades. A call that unseals a timeline you were always meant to walk. A call that returns the power taken from you 13 years ago. You won't need to chase it. You won't need to force it. You won't need to doubt it. The moment it arrives, you will feel the truth in your body before you understand it with your mind. Your soul has been waiting for this sound. Now breathe, Taurus. Place your hand on your heart. You are not imagining it. You are not overreacting. You are not in the wrong timeline. You are awakening to the one that was always yours. I rise from the silence. What was once taken from me returns in power. Feel it. Let it anchor. Let it vibrate through your chest. And if this message resonated with the deepest part of you, leave your hype on this video. Like, comment, share, and if your heart feels the call, become a member of this channel. Every hype you send strengthens this energy, helps this space grow, and carries this light to other Taurus souls who need this awakening as much as you do. Taurus, there is something sacred moving beneath the surface of your life, something you may not yet fully understand, but can feel like tremors beneath the ground. And I need you to sit with this truth carefully. Nothing that is shifting in your world right now is accidental. Not the distance, not the closings, not the sudden clarity, not the strange sense of anticipation that sits behind your ribs like a light that refuses to turn off. Have you noticed how certain conversations suddenly feel heavier than they used to? How some people's energy drains you faster than before? How your body reacts instantly when something is not aligned anymore? Why is your intuition speaking louder than your habits? Why are you sensing endings before they occur and beginnings before they shape themselves? Because your frequency is reorganizing your reality. A spiritual activation never arrives quietly, not for a sign like you, whose power emerges only after deep internal combustion. And right now, your inner world is burning down illusions you no longer have the strength to carry. What you're feeling is not instability, it is recalibration. Taurus, the universe is shifting your internal gravitational center. What used to pull you no longer does. What used to comfort you now suffocates. What once felt like home now feels like an old skin. Too tight, too limiting, too familiar to grow inside. Why are your dreams so vivid lately? Why do people from your past appear in them with faces you haven't seen in years? Why does it feel as if the universe is trying to show you something without using words? Because this activation is bringing unresolved timelines to the surface. 13 years ago, you took a path out of necessity, not out of destiny. You chose survival because the world gave you no other option. You chose stability because chaos left you with no breath. You chose silence because speaking would have broken you further. But survival is not the same as purpose, and silence is not the same as peace. Your soul recorded everything you endured, the abandonment you tolerated, the hopes you buried, the dreams you postponed for later, the heartbreak you swallowed with dignity, the moments you needed someone and no one came. Your soul remembers even when you forget, And now that same soul is calling back everything you lost. This is why your emotions feel sharper, why your boundaries have become more instinctive, why your patience has shifted into discernment rather than endurance. You are not becoming colder, you are becoming clearer. Taurus, I want you to reflect on something with honesty. Why do you sense that something is about to return? Why do you feel watched by a presence that is neither threatening nor familiar? Why do you catch yourself staring into the distance as if a future version of you is trying to speak? Because you are in the corridor between who you were and who you are becoming. This corridor is sacred. It is where destiny rewrites memory. The universe has begun pulling threads from the last 2 decades, weaving events you once believed random into a pattern you can finally see. Moments you dismissed, choices you made in desperation, people who entered your life briefly but left permanent marks. All of it is aligning with mathematical precision. You are beginning to witness the spiritual architecture of your life, and for the first time in years, your intuition and your destiny are speaking the same language. There is something else happening too, something subtle but powerful. You are remembering parts of yourself you didn't know you lost. That dream you abandoned, that version of you who believed in miracles, that inner strength you hid to protect others, that fire you dimmed to maintain peace. Why do these parts feel alive again? Why do you feel more like yourself than you have in years? Because your activation is not creating a new you. It is returning you to the real you. Every spiritual awakening begins with a breakdown of false identity. Every empowerment begins with the collapse of what no longer belongs. Every activation begins with a calling that you cannot ignore. And Taurus, that calling has already reached you. You've heard it in your chest, you've felt it in your breath, you've sensed it in your dreams, you've recognized it in the quiet moments when no one is watching. This is the sign you've been waiting for. But I need to ask you something essential, something that will shape the next part of your journey. Why are you hesitating? Why do you cling to situations that have already expired? Why do you silence truths that burn inside your mouth? Why do you hold back your transformation to protect people who never protected you? What are you afraid will happen if you finally rise into your full magnitude? Do you fear you'll lose people? Taurus, the ones meant for your new frequency will stay. Do you fear you'll outgrow what was once familiar? You already have. Do you fear the unknown? The unknown is already here. This activation does not wait for courage. It creates courage. Something inside you is awakening that no longer accepts half-lived truths. Something inside you is rising that no longer tolerates being underestimated. Something inside you is remembering that you were born with purpose carved into your bones. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming someone whole. Listen closely now. Your destiny is no longer in the distance. It is approaching you, faster than you think, closer than you realize, louder than you admit. This activation did not come to disrupt your life. It came to return your life to you. And the part that was stolen, silenced, or forgotten 13 years ago is the first piece the universe is bringing back. You are stepping into a chapter where nothing you lost remains lost. Where nothing you gave returns empty, where nothing you endured stays unrecognized, where nothing that is yours can be withheld. This is the beginning of reclamation, not just healing, not just closure, not just transformation, reclamation. Taurus, are you ready to receive what once broke you, but now empowers you? Taurus, before you take another step into this chapter, I need you to acknowledge something with the honesty of your bones. You are not the same person you were even 6 months ago. Your energy has changed, your boundaries have sharpened, your silence has gained weight, and your intuition has grown louder than your fears. But have you noticed something even stranger? When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts before you say a word. People who once took you for granted now watch you with uncertainty. Old patterns crumble the moment you try to repeat them. And opportunities you thought you missed suddenly drift back into your orbit, as if time itself is bending to your frequency. Why now? Why, after so many years of stillness, is everything beginning to ignite? Because the activation inside you is no longer subtle. It is rewriting your energetic field. You may have thought your transformation would be gentle. Earth signs like you expect growth to be steady, logical, predictable, but nothing about what's happening now is predictable. Your soul has entered a stage where destiny moves faster than logic, and intuition moves faster than fear. This is why you felt strange waves of clarity at unexpected hours. This is why your emotions move like tides, rising without warning. This is why your past has become loud again, not to haunt you, but to release you. Your activation is not linear. It moves in spirals, pulling up old memories, old wounds, old people, and old lessons, so your new path can finally be clean. Let me ask you something that may sound unsettling. Why do you feel watched? Why do you sense a presence around you? Not threatening, but alert, observant, almost protective. Why do you feel as though someone, somewhere, is preparing to reach out? Why do you feel as if a long-delayed message is already forming on the other side of a conversation you haven't had yet? Because your energy is pulling something toward you, a person, a revelation, a truth, a chapter that was paused, not ended. A destiny that was delayed, not denied. 13 years ago, your soul stepped out of alignment, not by mistake, but by necessity. Life cornered you into choices that, while practical, were never meant to be permanent. You lost a part of yourself in that shift, an emotional frequency, a dream, a calling, a connection, something that was supposed to grow with you, but instead fell asleep inside you. You learned to live without it. You learned to pretend it didn't matter. You learned to silence its absence, but you never learned to forget it. And now that frequency, after more than a decade in hibernation, is rising again. This is why you feel drawn to certain thoughts without reason. This is why old emotions flare up without trigger. This is why your heart reacts before your mind understands. Your activation is waking the part of your soul you abandoned for survival. Taurus, something in your life is approaching a moment of convergence. A point where past, present, and future collide in a single event that changes the trajectory of your path. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is spiritual architecture. Think about it. Why do you feel like you're walking towards something? Why does your body prepare itself every time your phone lights up, as if expecting news you can't name? Why do you sense a shift even during ordinary moments, washing dishes, driving, walking, breathing? Because destiny is already descending into the material. Your energy is calling it in. Your timeline is aligning. Your heart is bracing because it knows what your mind still doubts. The call that returns your power is already in motion, and it won't arrive as confusion. It will arrive as recognition. Your body will know before your mind accepts. Your intuition will confirm before the words are spoken. Your soul will remember before the moment unfolds. This is not about someone choosing you. This is about destiny choosing its timing. But I must ask you something critical. What will you do when the moment arrives? Will you hide behind your old self? Will you silence your truth to avoid disruption? Will you shrink because the new version of you feels too powerful, too unfamiliar, too real? Or will you finally rise into the frequency that has been waiting 20 years to surface? Taurus, nothing about your next chapter is small. The universe is not preparing you for a minor shift, a simple improvement, a gentle upgrade. What's coming is structural, foundational, identity level. This is not healing. This is remembering. This is not change. This is reactivation. You are stepping into a timeline that fits the magnitude of your soul. But understand this. You cannot receive what is meant for your awakened self while clinging to habits built for your wounded self. And that is why life has been stripping away anything that cannot come with you. People who drain you, fading, situations built on fear, cracking, roles you've outgrown, suffocating, silences you tolerated, ending, old versions of you, dying. Because the you that is rising is not compatible with what once kept you small. For the first time in years, your intuition is not a whisper. It is a command. For the first time in years, your destiny is not a future, it is a knocking at the door. For the first time in years, your spirit is not tired, it is ready. But readiness is not comfort. Readiness is surrender. Let me ask you something uncomfortable, but necessary. Why do you fear your own power? Is it because you're afraid you'll lose people? You will lose those who cannot meet your evolved frequency. Is it because you fear responsibility? You already carry more responsibility than anyone realizes. Is it because you're afraid of repeating past pain? You are not the same person who once tolerated it. Or do you fear something far greater? That you were never meant to live a small life, and now the universe is removing every excuse you had for staying small. Taurus, breathe. You are not in crisis. You are not unraveled. You are not falling apart. You are expanding beyond the life you once settled for. Your spirit is undergoing a massive energetic correction, an alignment that has taken 13 years of quiet endurance and 2 decades of soul preparation. What is coming is not random. It is the return of everything that was once yours, but could not reach you before. You feel it, you know it, you sense it. Taurus. Before you continue reading, notice what your body is doing right now. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breath shallow? Do you feel a subtle pull in your chest, like anticipation mixed with recognition? That isn't anxiety. That is alignment. Something inside you recognizes what is unfolding here, because it has been waiting for this moment for years. Part of you may still doubt it. Part of you may wonder if you're imagining this activation. Part of you may ask, why me? Why now? But the deeper part, the ancient part, already knows the truth. Your timeline is shifting because your identity can no longer remain small. And destiny, Taurus, does not ask for permission. It arrives when the soul is structurally ready. Have you noticed how your past no longer holds you the way it once did? How your old wounds don't sting with the same sharpness, but instead feel like stories written in another lifetime? How people who once shaped your identity now seem distant, almost irrelevant to the person you have become. Why do you think that is happening? Why is your heart less reactive, but more intuitive? Why does your mind feel quieter, but your spirit louder? Because your activation is not emotional, it is dimensional. Taurus, your energy field has been expanding in ways you cannot yet measure. You've been feeling the symptoms, the sudden clarity, the emotional detachment, the intuitive insights, the exhaustion that feels more spiritual than physical, the sense that something enormous is approaching. You are not overthinking. You are adjusting to a new frequency. Your soul is stepping into a higher timeline, one you were aligned with long ago but could not access because of the weight you carried. For 13 years, life stripped you, reshaped you, challenged you, and rebuilt you, not to weaken you, but to purify you. Now this purified version of you is rising, and rising comes with remembrance. You are starting to realize that much of what you suffered was not misfortune, it was misalignment. The wrong people, the wrong timing, the wrong expectations, the wrong compromises. And now, as the activation intensifies, the universe is removing these misalignments with a precision that feels almost surgical. Have you noticed how certain doors have closed without your intervention? How some connections dissolved naturally, without conflict? How opportunities that once excited you now feel hollow? How the things you once tolerated now feel intolerable? Why is all this happening simultaneously? Because destiny cannot build on foundations that were never meant to hold you. There is something else unfolding beneath the surface, something most people never experience consciously. You are entering a phase of energetic recall. This means that parts of your soul that were dormant, wisdom, intuition, purpose, power, are waking from their long sleep. Think of it like fragments of memory returning, not from your mind, but from your spirit. This is why you feel pulled toward certain choices without knowing why. Why specific names echo in your awareness before appearing in your life? Why synchronicities follow you like breadcrumbs? Why certain emotions hit you with the weight of déjà vu? Your activation is not only awakening your future, it is awakening your past selves. And Taurus, those past selves carry keys. Keys to confidence, keys to clarity, keys to power, keys to destiny. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering that you always were. But let me ask you something uncomfortable. What will you do with this power? Will you protect it? Will you dismiss it? Will you deny it because it feels unfamiliar? Will you allow others to define it for you? Why do you fear your own magnitude? Why do you hesitate to trust what your intuition is screaming? Why do you keep negotiating your truth for the sake of peace? Taurus, the version of you that lived for others is dissolving. The version of you that over-explained, over-loved, over-gave, and over-carried is collapsing. You are stepping into a timeline where you will not chase, you will not beg, you will not shrink, you will not tolerate disrespect disguised as love. You will not be the emotional foundation for those who offer you crumbs. Your activation is not passive, it is declarative. It says, I know who I am now. And the universe responds, then let me show you what has always belonged to you. What happens next in your life will not be subtle. It will not be quiet. It will not be delayed. Destiny is preparing a convergence point, a moment where everything you've endured, everything you've lost, everything you've waited for, everything you've prayed for, everything you've carried in silence will align. This is why you feel the pull. This is why you can't shake the sense that something big is coming. This is why your soul is restless while your mind seeks logic. You are not preparing for a moment. The moment is preparing for you. Let me ask you again, slowly this time, why do you feel watched? Is it because someone from your past is thinking of reaching out? Is it because your guides are closer than ever? Is it because you are being positioned for a connection that was written long before this lifetime? Is it because you sense a message forming in the ether, waiting to touch the physical world? Yes, all of it. Your activation is summoning alignment, and alignment summons events, people, revelations, truths, and one pivotal moment that changes the trajectory of your path. You will not have to force it. You will not have to chase it. You will not have to beg for clarity. The call is coming. The message is forming. The awakening is unfolding. The convergence is near. Taurus, what you are awakening into will make the last 13 years make sense. What approaches you now is not random. It is the return of a timeline stolen, paused, buried, or delayed. And what rises in the next part of your journey is the revelation your soul has been preparing for 2 decades. Taurus. Before we cross this final threshold, breathe deeply, slow, intentional. Feel the weight of your chest, the pulse in your ribs, the subtle tremor beneath your sternum. This is not simply emotion. This is the sensation of a cycle completing itself inside your body. Because in this final part, we are not talking about what is coming. We are stepping into what is already in motion. You have felt it for weeks, maybe months, yet you couldn't name it. A quiet shift in the air, a soft pressure behind your thoughts, a presence in the room when you wake just before dawn. This activation isn't a prophecy anymore. It is unfolding through your everyday life. Let me ask you something. Why does the world feel slightly tilted, as if something is rearranging itself behind the scenes? Why do conversations linger in your mind longer than they should? Why do you keep sensing the beginning of an ending, or the ending of a beginning? Why does it feel like the universe is waiting for you to notice something only you can see? Because your soul has reached a point of no return. The old timeline is dissolving. The new timeline is forming, and you are standing between both, holding the key to which one becomes your reality. Taurus, a deeper truth needs to be spoken here. You have been functioning on an outdated identity for years, an identity shaped by wounds you no longer carry, fears you no longer believe, and loyalties you no longer owe. Yet you kept living as if the past still held you prisoner. Why? Because you learned endurance before you learned freedom. Because you learned stability before you learned expansion. Because you learned silence before you learned truth. But this final phase of your activation is going to ask you something bold. Will you finally stop living as the version of yourself that survived and start living as the version that is meant to thrive? In the last weeks, you've felt internal shifts you can't explain, random moments of clarity, sudden emotional releases, unexpected memories resurfacing with intensity, dreams that feel more like messages than imagination. A strange awareness of your future self calling you forward. This isn't coincidence, it is alignment. Part of your activation involves something few signs can endure, the collapse of a cycle that took 13 years to build. And Taurus, you are standing at the very edge of that collapse. But collapse is not destruction. Collapse is liberation. What has been breaking in your life is not your foundation. It is your prison. What has been dissolving is not your identity. It is your disguise. What has been leaving is not your support. It is your limitation. You are not losing anything essential. You are losing what kept your essential self hidden. Let me ask you a daring question. Why are you resisting the changes you prayed for? You asked for clarity, yet cling to confusion. You asked for love, yet fear intimacy. You asked for freedom, yet cling to what anchors you to an outdated story. You asked for abundance, yet doubt your right to receive. You asked for a sign, yet hesitate when the sign arrives. Do you realize how many of your prayers have already been answered, but you keep trying to fit their answers into your past? Taurus, this activation requires you to accept one truth you've avoided for years. You were never meant to live a life of quiet suffering. You were meant to live a life of embodied purpose. This is why the universe has been shifting everything at once. This is why people are falling away. This is why certain opportunities are reappearing. This is why a familiar presence keeps brushing against your energy. This is why your intuition has become louder than your doubts. Your transformation is no longer optional. It is timed, and the time is now. In the days ahead, something significant will present itself, not as a test, not as a coincidence, but as a mirror. A conversation that cracks open an old truth, a message that arrives at the exact moment your soul is ready. A revelation that gives context to the last 13 years, a return of someone, something, or some unfinished story, a decision that forces you to choose your highest self over your comfortable self. This is the moment where your past and your future meet in a single point of choice. What you choose in this moment determines the trajectory of your next 20 years. This is why the universe has been preparing you so intensely. Your activation is not about healing old wounds. It is about reclaiming old power. What was taken from you 13 years ago is returning. What was suppressed for 20 years is waking. What was silenced is rising. What was paused is moving. What was hidden is revealing itself. And Taurus, what is returning to you now comes with force. But I must ask you something vital. Are you ready to receive without shrinking? Are you prepared to step into a version of yourself that no longer explains, apologizes, or negotiates? Are you willing to let destiny elevate you, even if others cannot follow? Are you ready to trust your soul more than your fear? Because the version of you emerging now is not fragile. It is not hesitant. It is not wounded. It is not waiting. It is sovereign. And when sovereignty rises, everything around it rearranges. You will see people reveal their true intentions. You will feel energy shifts before they manifest. You will sense endings before they arrive. You will recognize blessings the moment they enter your field. You will no longer question who or what is meant for you. Your clarity will rise like a crown. Taurus, This is the end of the silence inside you. This is the end of the long cycle of endurance. This is the end of the detour that stole your timeline. This is the end of the story that kept you small. Your soul is not whispering anymore. It is calling. It is summoning. It is commanding the life you were always meant to live. And that call, the one you felt forming in your chest, is about to reach you in the physical world. When it does, everything will change. Not because the call is powerful, but because you are. This is the moment your past releases you. This is the moment your future chooses you. This is the moment your spirit returns to its throne. The activation is complete. Now, destiny begins.